This is something that comes up a lot. I mean, China sits on the UN Human Rights Council. It's insane. And I hear this a lot from people like, what can be done about China's outsized influence over the United Nations? I mean, they sit on the Security Council. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done, but it makes the UN kind of useless.
The I wouldn't say completely useless. And I mean, we went through this before with the League of Nations, where there was a tendency for countries to drop out because they didn't like what was going on, and it made the league kind of useless. The UN obviously is limited, where you've got China, and I mean, it's far from the only undemocratic country that's involved.
France.
Russia's a problem, and Russia also has a veto on the Security Council, and there's many other countries that they don't present the same problem as China, but they're happy to go along with China because they support each other in terms of their non-democratic views. And there are some mechanisms that are useful within the UN, the expert mechanisms, although because they're independent from the geopolitical structure. The expert mechanisms, there's the theme mechanisms and the treaty mechanisms. China tends not to sign on the treaties or to exempt itself from anything in terms of compliance assessment, but the theme mechanisms are a lot more broad ranging. China's tried to get involved through the Human Rights Council in deciding who would become the thematic experts, but they haven't completely distorted that system. So that system is sometimes useful. And also, I mean, you have the Universal Periodic Review, and you do have the opportunity at the Human Rights Council for all the member states of the UN to speak up, not just the members. And at the UN, you may not get the vote you want, but you can certainly say whatever you want. And nothing should prevent the democratic rights promoting countries from speaking up and saying about China the reality of China. I mean, having a forum to do that, a global forum where China is sitting and listening, albeit ignoring and insulting and attacking, is better than doing nothing. Although obviously it's not it's not ideal. And there are all some of the international mechanisms, like the International Court of Justice. It's difficult to get there because China's opted out of most of the mechanisms. But the International Criminal Court offers some prospect. I don't know if you've been following, but the prosecutor produces annual reports of communications from whomever and responses. And there has been some communications about China. China is not a party to the court treaty, but the court has a jurisdiction where a crime is committed on the territory of a state party, even if it's by a national of a non-state party. And that form of jurisdiction has been used by the court against Myanmar, which is not a state party, because the crime of deportation has occurred not only in Myanmar, the Rohingya, but in Bangladesh, where the Rohingya have been sent, and and Bangladesh is a state party. So there was a complaint against or a communication to the prosecutor about China, which said that there's been deportations of Uyghurs from Tajikistan and from Cambodia or Kampuchea to China, in which the Chinese were involved in basically in requiring or imposing this deportation. And Tajikistan and Cambodia are state parties and trying to get China prosecuted or the Chinese involved in this deportation prosecuted before the International Criminal Court. And the prosecutor said, basically, give me more detail, give me more information. So there is an attempt now to collect that information, and who knows, maybe it'll succeed. But I think each of these individual efforts are worthwhile.
You actually made a better defense of the UN than I've heard in a long time. So this is where international organizations like the UN can come in handy by being able to be a forum where these issues can be discussed, where at least some kind of statement can be made condemning actions that then can be used by individual countries to affect law.
Yes, well, the UN is a lot better at setting standards than implementing them, and it's a lot better at articulating ideals than pointing fingers. And if you go to the UN to get them to criticize China, no matter how justifiable that criticism is, it's very difficult. But if you go to the UN and ask them to adopt a global standard of what should be done to prevent this or to do that, they're often quite prepared to do that. And the Chinese, as far as they're concerned, I mean, when it comes to human rights, this is to a certain extent good news, is that everybody accepts it. I mean, the hypocrisy is what the credit that vice gives to virtue, and China will not reject standards. They'll just say, "I agree, fine, they're perfectly all right. We just aren't violating." And so they're not an obstacle to, I would say, generally to overall acceptance of standards. They don't like reporting mechanisms. They don't like compliance mechanisms. They don't like enforcement mechanisms. But the standards themselves, they do not reject, and so it is sometimes useful to get the UN to do that.